This episode is brought to you by Monkey Nutrition.
This guy taught Carlos Gracie, who opened up the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school.
Right, Elio's brother.
Elio's older brother.
Older brother, right.
So he was really the true founder of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
And but Elio was the one that seemed to have the highest skill level and the real knack for it, even though he's rather small and weak.
Small guy, right.
He was able. What he did was he changed the Japanese techniques because he was too small and weak to make many of these things work, and he made it a little bit more user friendly. But more importantly was he created a teaching style, a way that jiu-jitsu should be taught. So Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is no different from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as far as the holds, the throws, the techniques. The difference between Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the teaching style and technique. And a person can't really claim to teach Gracie Jiu-Jitsu unless they've been trained directly by the sons of Elio Gracie.
Okay.
The man that founded this whole teaching system.
If you had to describe that teaching technique in a few sentences, what would it be, or the difference in that technique?
Well, it's very interesting because, as a physical education major who later got his master's degree in exercise science and physical education,
this is what you do.
These guys did not have any formal college or education as far as physical education is concerned, but they were brilliant. They followed all the rules of motor learning, the way the techniques are introduced, the way you do not overwhelm or overload the student in those initial lessons.
Right.
You start with real basic things, and each lesson builds on the next. And everything is done in slow-mo. And they did not allow the students just to go out and start sparring willy-nilly, even though that's what everyone wants to do from the first day.
Yep.
It actually retards your progress because you just start, reinforcing
bad technique,
bad habits, trying to overwhelm people with strength and power, and you end up not learning nearly as quickly as when you go through the step-by-step process. And the people that some of the best teachers in the world, of course, are the sons of Jorge and Gracie. They're fantastic. But any of House and Gracie, Henner and Hiro, I know those guys when they're just they were still a couple of them were still wearing diapers when I first met those guys.
Those guys do the UFC.
Now they're giants. They break me in half with one arm.
Because they've got the academy in Torrance. Is that where the big
yes, they do.
Gracie Academy is? They do the UFC breakdowns. If you ever see it, they train Ronda Rousey on her ground game. And yeah, you knew them when they were munchkins.
And I was Royce Gracie's trainer, his personal trainer for the first 3 UFCs. Royce, I actually introduced Royce to his wife, Marianne, and she used to be my kid's babysitter and actually taught. She was a exercise instructor at my academy. She was really excellent.
Okay.
In fact, I always accused Royce of stealing my best instructor when he took her back to California.
How come you weren't in the UFC documentary, Steve? Gosh, you knew everyone in the beginning,
Yeah, I mean, but Jorge just put it together on a shoestring budget.
Right.
Everyone just put in a certain amount of money, and we went out to Denver, didn't have any idea what to expect that first one. To tell the truth, I was pretty scared. I mean, I had a lot of faith in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, but man, when I saw that Ken Shamrock and the way he did that footlock and that the one kickboxer, I thought, oh my God, this guy's basically naked with a little Speedo. And
how big was Ken back then? 200-something pounds?
He was well over 200. I think maybe Royce was 176 pounds soaking wet. And, he wasn't a real powerful guy, but he had amazing endurance. And, of course, he had that awesome jiu-jitsu technique,
right? But he didn't have a competition track record, though, did he?
No, he had never competed.
Seems like a big. I mean, in retrospect, it looks like a well-orchestrated scheme. But man, that's a big crapshoot on that night to make the new kid try to beat all these huge guys. Shamrock always had some footlock and leg lock skills.
He was no joke, that guy, man. But Jorge said, well, I could have had Rickson do this, but everyone look at Rickson and say, well, look at this guy. He's such a specimen. I mean, he did have a hell of a physique,
right?
And he was strong. I mean, he had everything, strength and agility and flexibility and power and, I mean, just everything. And people would say, well, that's Rickson. But Jorge, his whole point was, well, look at Royce. He's not particularly athletically gifted, He's not like this big muscular behemoth. He had nice shape to him, but he was pretty on the thin side, wiry side.
Yeah.
And he's the nicest guy in the world, very mild-mannered, and so young. And Jorge said, look, if people see Royce, they're going to say, wow, if he can do this, well, maybe I have a chance too, because that really does prove just how good the technique is. And, of course, they definitely proved that if you don't know jiu-jitsu, you're in trouble in a one-on-white, mano-a-mano fight. Pretty much the jiu-jitsu guy, if you go in a closed room and you close the door, the jiu-jitsu guy is going to be the one that comes walking back out,
Right,
for
90,
sure.
with big numbers, like 94, 95% of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah,
You know.
This week on London Real, we're taking you back to our 2012 interview with futurist Jacques Fresco.
We must eventually design a language that's not subject to interpretation. Whenever you talk to people, you think you're talking to people. It goes in their ear and comes out in relation to their background. They don't hear exactly what you say. There is no way you can think outside of your culture.
What if we elected you president this year and you started in the Oval Office January 20th, 2013?
I'd be shot in 3 days. Who makes the decisions in the Venus Project? The answer, nobody. They arrive at them. We abolish all separate nations because they're all corrupt.
Jacques Fresco has been designing cities of the future.
What do you think of England and London?
Foul, awful, no city planning. All cultures are corrupt.
And the banking system, what do we do with
Bank
that?
it gone, no money anymore.
On Sunday, London Real presents Jacques Fresco, The Venus Project, Redux.
Most politicians know nothing. Please don't take my word for it. Ask them.